Hello, my name is Connor, and welcome to the Paleo Page. Today we are at a farm, except on this farm you won't find a cow, you won't find a horse, you won't find a pig, you especially won't find a goat or a sheep. At this farm, you'll find an animal that is going to help us uncover the biology, the evolutionary history, and the cultural significance of an ancient group of mammals. Behind me is, you might even see them right now, these are reindeer, and they're going to help us understand man, it's cold out there. But anyways, hi everyone, welcome back. I'm back with another video. I'm sorry, I'll make sure it doesn't happen again, and I take full responsibility, I'm sorry. This video originally started out as just about the animal we went to go visit. That was the main idea of the video, that being the reindeer. But the more I researched and read about these animals and their other deer, I was like, damn, these animals are really cool. And then I thought, hey, what if I did a whole video about nothing but deer in their entirety? And so that's what this video is, and it evolved into, much to the dismay of past me, who was writing the script for this. But today we're going to go over the biology and ecology, the evolutionary history, and the cultural significance of the deer. And it's cold out there, but it's actually really hot in the room I recorded in, so I'm going to take this off now. Before we get into the video though, I have to give a few quick thank yous. First of all, thank you to everyone who watched the 2025 Paleo Recap. I was expecting it to maybe get 4 views and then call it a day. I wasn't expecting it to do as well as it did, which I really didn't care about because I was just making it for fun anyways. That's what I do with all these videos. But it did really well, and all the feedback I saw was pretty positive. And so I want to say thank you so much for watching that. If you haven't yet, maybe I will link it in one of the cards. I think the cards are up here. I don't know. You can go watch it if you want. Or you can watch this video first and then go over to that. It's on my channel, obviously. Speaking of other long-form videos, I have started a Jurassic World Evolution 3 campaign series that I'll hopefully do weekly. And finally, I want to give a massive thank you to Kelly and Mike Gregg, the owners of the farm where we went to go record and hang out with the reindeer. It was an amazing opportunity for me and the other people I brought with me. Thank you so much for having us. I cannot wait to come back in the actual holiday season. I will make sure to bring the boys some graham crackers. Now, with all that out of the way, it's time to talk about the deer. That sounds really dumb. Deer are a group of hoofed animals, or ungulates, specifically in the order Artiodactyla, meaning they have an even number of toes in their feet. Same with giraffes, camels, cows, and funnily enough, whales. More specifically, deer are the family Cervidae. Now, in the fossil record, what is and isn't a real cervid is kind of muddy, to say the least, but the definition of a cervid that we'll stick to throughout this video is an animal with antlers. Yes, that's correct. Deer are the only animals with antlers, which we'll talk about later. I should also mention that deer are the second most diverse group of artiodactylans on the planet, with 43 known living species. And that's just a little bit behind bovids, or cows, who have 146 species, which is crazy. There's a lot of cows in the world. Cervidae is then split into 2 different subfamilies. First we have the Cervidae, or the Old World deer. These animals are typically more archaic and primitive in build, some of which still having their ancestral saber-tooth-like canines, as seen in the tufted deer. Examples of Old World deer include the aforementioned tufted deer, muntjacs, fallow deer, swamp deer, and the entire genus of Cervus, which includes the red deer, the sika deer, and the elk. On the other side of Cervidae is the Capreolinae, and you won't be able to guess what they're known as. I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said the New World deer, you would be correct! Wow, you're so smart. I'm so proud of you. This subfamily includes more derived deer, such as the water deer, the poodoo, the infamous white-tailed deer, as well as all of the larger deer species, such as the North American caribou, the Siberian reindeer, or the absolutely massive moose. Deer can be found in a lot of environments. While we typically think of them as living in forested areas or in grassy fields, they've adapted to live in the rainforests and jungles of South America and Southern Asia, all the way up to the coldest tundras of Siberia. in the case of the reindeer. In fact, deer are indigenous to 5 out of the 7 continents on the planet. And even then, they also live in Australia. They aren't naturally there. They were introduced by humans, which is fitting because humans are great at bringing invasive species into places where they shouldn't be. Deer have been able to inhabit all of these different environments for the past 20 million years. Yes, I said 20 million years. That's a long time. Thanks to one of their greatest strengths, that being their extreme adaptability. Long legs make them excellent runners, jumpers, swimmers, perfect for getting away from predators, but also maneuvering a variety of landscapes. The most prominent and defining feature of the deer, however, has got to be their antlers. Again, deer are the only animals with antlers. Pronghorns might count, but they're closely related anyways. But then again, their structures don't really count because their structures contain keratin, which a normal antler does not. So no pronghorns. Also, before you say it, jackalopes are a myth. So they don't have antlers either because, they're not real. Deer antlers are incredible structures. Made out of rapidly growing, extremely strong bone, these structures have a multitude of uses and variation throughout the entire cervid family. Antlers start off as a bony structure on the top of a young buck's head, known as a pedicle. When it comes time for a buck to start growing its pair of antlers, new bone will start to grow, encased in a material known as velvet.
Okay,
Can you explain what the velvet is?
Okay, so the velvet is actually an arterial blood supply, and it's fuzzy on the outside, and it's used, and that velvet is to protect the bone underneath, and to house that arterial blood supply that will feed that bone.
The velvet provides oxygen and nutrients to the rapidly growing bony core on the inside. And when I say rapid, I mean rapid. The growth of a deer's antlers is thought to be the fastest growing animal tissue on the planet, growing at an average speed of 2 centimeters per day, or just under 0.8 inches a day, which might not sound like a lot on paper or said out loud, but that's like this much a day. That's still quite a lot.
Okay, hi, Editing Connor here, and I wanted to add something that I forgot when I was, making the script and then reading it. With how fast that the antlers grow, it might come as a shock that they actually remain really cancer-free. Typically, when you have such a high rate of cell division, cells could eventually end up mutating and then bypass checkpoints, leading to eventual tumors. Antlers, while they can have tumorous growths on occasion, they're actually relatively benign, it seems. The cells at the tip of the antler, where the growth happens, are more adapted to osteosarcoma than normal bone tissue. To avoid this turning into a bone cancer, antlers have gained highly efficient apoptosis, or controlled cell death, in the areas where a tumor is more of a threat. This, alongside deer having very positively selected p53 cofactor genes and p53 regulators, which are really strong cancer suppressive genes, that's all potentially what leads to the low levels of cancer within deer antlers. This attribute of antlers has led to an interest in the bony structures within the clinical setting, as it could potentially lead to finding better cancer treatments in people as well. I'm really mad I didn't put that in the script at all, and that I didn't catch it when I was reading the script, but I had to share it now. Better late than never, right? Alright, back to you, Connor, recording this.
Once the structure is fully developed and grown, the velvet will start to shed and the bony core on the inside will die, making it extremely strong. And then the animal, typically a buck, will go into something called rut. And this is basically a male saying, "Hey, I want sex, who else does? I promise my antlers are bigger than his."
When do they get their antlers, and how long does it take for them to get out of velvet? How long does it take for them to grow? When do they lose them?
Okay, so their born growing antlers are the only reindeer that kind of do that. So immediately when they come out, they have little tiny nubs. The first time they go into velvet is throughout that first year. That will be their first set. That's what Obi has. And then they strip their velvet in the fall when they go into their rut season. And then they'll drop them January, February, usually.
Yes, perhaps unsurprisingly, the main purpose of antlers is to be a sexual display towards females, with larger antlers often correlating with an older, more experienced, better fit buck, which is potentially more attractive to a doe. Deer antlers are often cited as the most extreme sexual display structures on the planet, which, yeah, I would agree. After the mating season ends, typically deer will shed their antlers, if they didn't break off already, and then begin the process all over again, getting the nutrients and starting to grow a new pair of antlers, a bigger and better one, for the next rut season. While the primary function of a deer's antlers is for sexual display, that's not the only reason. Across the entire cervid family, antlers have numerous different functions. Because, nothing in nature is ever so straightforward and easy to understand. Most commonly, some deer will use their antlers to fight other bucks in sort of head ramming competitions.
As bulls in rut, they're scary sometimes.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful because they'll go after whoever they think is bothering their girls.
Okay.
Often this leads to bucks getting tangled in each other's antlers. And if they aren't able to get unstuck or drop their antlers in time, both of the animals will very much starve to death. However, not every use of the antlers has to do with sex. A paper from 2018 observed how long elk in Yellowstone National Park retained their antlers in correlation to whether those animals got hunted by wolves more often or not. Elk who drop their antlers earlier following the rut season typically have a better chance of growing a bigger, better pair for the next rut season because they have more time to, grow that set, get the nutrients ready for it. But the study also showed that the elk who drop their antlers earlier are often hunted by wolves much more often, meaning that there could be some sort of benefit from the elk dropping their antlers later in the year, and they might have a smaller rack in the upcoming rut season, but they won't be, hunted and killed by a wolf as often. This shows that the elk antlers have, at least to some degree, a attribute that wards off predators, whether that's they're fighting off the wolves with the antlers, or if the antlers are just really intimidating, which, valid. If I was a wolf, I would rather go after the much more regular looking deer rather than the one with the giant spikes coming out of its head. Some deer are special when it comes to using their antlers, though.
Reindeer are the only cervids with females that have antlers. Is that
true?
Correct? Okay.
That's absolutely true.
Reindeer live in snowy tundra environments in Siberia. So it's thought that they use their antlers as sort of shovels to dig under the snow and reach vegetation to eat. Both male and female reindeers, they need to eat. They both need to eat. So it would make sense evolutionarily that both sexes would have the tools necessary to get under the snow.
All right, now what is the main purpose for these antlers? Is it defense? Is it for display?
It's actually all of that, and it's also so that they can dig in the ground for food. They have a front shovel for protection. They do antler play, which is very normal for reindeer. Okay. They like to do all that with each other. Sometimes they like to do it with us. Hi. So that's scary. Yeah. So yeah, their antlers are used as tools. They're used as defense.
I also have to add, while other deer can sometimes have antlers if they're female, usually that's due to an intersex condition of some sort. Meanwhile, reindeer regularly have females with antlers. Another deer that uses their antlers really uniquely actually is the moose. Male moose use their antlers as hearing aids. Yes, you heard me right. They use their antlers as hearing aids. A group of researchers experimented with a pair of moose antlers behind a microphone that was configured the same as a moose ear. And then they had speakers in front of and at the side of this setup. And they played the same sound from the speakers to see how loud it was picked up in the microphone. And they did this with the antlers and without the antlers. And they found that the moose antlers amplified the noise by 19%. That means that moose antlers improved their hearing by 19%, which is awesome. When I first heard about this, I was amazed. This is awesome. They use these extremely massive hearing aids, as well as the really adjustable and really sensitive ears that they have that are 60 times larger than a human's, to help listen out for females who would potentially want to mate and they're calling towards them. A moose's calls can travel up to 2 miles, and the massive ears alongside the giant flat hearing aids, you would be able to hear the female a lot better. If I was a moose, I would want to hear them a lot better too. Deer have been evolving on this planet for a really long time, They were roaming the grasslands and forests of Eurasia long before even elephants arrived, and they lived alongside some of the greatest mammals in history, such as the mammoths and mastodons, or woolly rhinos and ground sloths, to macro predators like dire wolves, short-faced bears, and smilodon. But against all odds, the deer came before and survived till after these animals came around. And this is thanks to their amazing capability to adapt to new environments, and that has allowed them to survive the past 20 million years. To best understand the Cervid family tree, we have to go back to before Cervids. We need to go back roughly 50 to 55 million years ago, all the way back to the Eocene. The Eocene saw the first group of artiodactyls known as the ruminants. One of these early artiodactyls, potentially the direct ancestor to all ruminants, is the Diacodexus. This small animal is about the size of a rabbit, but it had the talus bone for which all artiodactyls are known. These ruminants wouldn't last long, however, lasting until just about 46 million years ago. Well, they didn't make it but 4 to 9 million years. They were found all across North America and Eurasia, perhaps foreshadowing to the widespread area that their descendants would encompass. Moving on to the Oligocene, the planet saw a rise in formation of some of the largest mountain ranges in Earth's history, those being the Alps and the Himalayas. The formation of these mountains brought a lot of geographical change, and this change is thought to have brought rise to some of the first ever deer-like forms, as well as eventually the first true ancestors of the Cervids. Some of these deer-like animals from the latter half of the Oligocene include the European Eumeryx and Dromaeotherium, as well as the North American Leptomeryx and Blastomeryx. The Dromaeotherium and the Blastomeryx in particular, small saber-toothed animals, could represent the direct ancestors of true antlered cervids, though they lack antlers themselves. Alright, we've made it to the Miocene, and that means we've made it to the first ever true deer. This is Dichroceros elegans, the earliest known ancient antlered cervid. Fossils of this animal have been found across Eurasia in France, Germany, Portugal, Slovakia, Serbia, and even in China. The males of the species had 2 single-forked antlers, which were likely shed regularly. These antlers were likely used as sexual display structures, just as antlers would be used throughout cervid history. While this early deer wasn't that large, just 70 centimeters tall, or 2'4" at the shoulder, making it about the same size as the modern roe deer, the oldest fossils of this animal date back to potentially 20 million years ago. While some conservative estimates give it maybe as old as 15 million years ago, that's still really, really old. Other early deer from the Miocene include the Euproc, Heteroprox, and Procervulus, the third of which being unique in that it didn't shed its antlers ever. The 2 subfamilies of Cervidae would start to split apart in the latter half of the Miocene. The Cervinae, or the Old World deer, first appeared 7 to 9 million years ago, and the subfamily of Muntiacinae appeared about 8 million years ago with Muntiacus leleoensis. The early muntjacs ranged from as small as a hare to as large as the modern fallow deer, but alongside their antlers they retained their ancestral tusk-like canines. Soon after the Cervinae appeared, the Capreolinae, or New World deer, followed suit, with Alcyone appearing roughly 6.4 to 8.4 million years ago. During the late Miocene, the Tethys Ocean disappeared, making way for abundant grasslands, and these grasslands would have been an immense food source for these newly emerging deer, which maybe sort of explains why they started to rapidly diversify during this period of the Miocene. And as their antlers started to grow and become more impressive, their tusks shrunk, though in some modern species like the muntjacs and tufted deer, they still have small canines along with small antlers, and then tragulids still have their long sabers. Now we make it to the Pliocene, and this is a time of global cooling. This, alongside a drop in sea level, led to a massive global glaciation event. And in turn, this led to even more grasslands for deer and other megafauna to munch on. Deer continued to diversify and spread out greatly. The Cervinae, or a subfamily of Cervinae, first appeared in Eurasia from 4.2 to 6 million years ago, the oldest of which being Cervids novorossiae. Cervids fossils from the Pliocene and the early Pleistocene have been found in China and in the Himalayas. The genera Cervids and Doma seemingly appeared around 3 million years ago, and then Axis followed soon after. The Capreolini and the Reindeer Farm appeared a bit earlier, at around 4 to 7 million years ago. The first ever Cervids to reach North America, those being Brexia and Eocoleus, both of which are in the Reindeer Farm subfamily, more than likely made it across from northeastern Asia into North America along the infamous Bering Strait, alongside other Eurasian artiodactylids like camels. Deer then decided to rapidly invade South America after it was connected to North America via Panama during the Great American Interchange. Now we make it to the early Pleistocene, and alongside the rise of animals like mammoths and rhinos, we start to see a lot of deer become really big with even bigger antlers. Some of these deer made it to the size of modern elk, such as Euclatoceras. And some of these deer didn't even give competition to the modern moose, but exceeded the modern moose, such as in the case of Megaloceras, also known as the Irish elk, even though it's not actually an elk. This was one of the largest species of deer to ever live, reaching 2 meters or 6'6" at the hips, and having antlers that span 3.6 meters or 11'10" at maximum from tip to tip. While that is insanely large, this still isn't the largest species of deer known to science, as that title likely goes to Cervalsis latifrons, also more commonly known as the giant moose. Most of these supermassive deer have since gone extinct, potentially due to hyper-competitive sexual selection, but more than likely it was due to climatic pressures as well as, of course, human activity. Some of the few remaining large Eurasian deer, the reindeer and the moose, did manage to make their way into North America across the Bering Strait before it, disappeared. The former of which, the reindeer, eventually becoming the modern-day caribou.
Is there any sort of difference between a reindeer and a caribou, or are they basically the same thing?
Well, it was thought for a long time that they were the same thing, but they're actually not. There is a small genetic difference between a wild caribou, which we did have here in the United States, and reindeer. So, they did a lot of research, and they found that difference, and so now reindeer are not considered caribou.
Okay.
Today, the oldest living species of deer is the white-tailed deer, which first shows up in the continent's fossil record potentially 5 million years ago, although it's been argued that the range is more from 2 to 4 million years. Deer as a group now cover a vast array of environments, from the tropics of South America to the tundras of Siberia. The Cervids managed to spread themselves across 5 out of 7 continents, excluding Antarctica and Australia, and even then they made it to Australia thanks to us. This group of ungulates have survived for millions of years of predation, climate shifts, geological events, and of course human activity, and they have thrived when other megafauna weren't able to make it. Deer appeared before and remained after some of the largest names in mammalian history, such as the mammoths and mastodons, and of course the saber-toothed tigers, the dire wolves, all of those animals. Their survival is a testament to one of the deer's greatest strengths, that being their adaptability. This, alongside the rise of the grasslands, has helped this group survive for the past 20 million years. However, the rise of a brand new species will change the course of history forever, including for the deer. This strange, hairless, bipedal primate would soon learn to make tools and weapons, and would soon come to dominate the entire planet. How would this strange new species, known as the human, affect the story of the deer? Early on in hominid history, deer served as an important food source, not just for us Homo sapiens, but for the other of our humans' cousins. Homo erectus, beyond just having a funny name, is known to have hunted sika deer in China and red deer in Germany. As for our species, reindeer served as an important food source for those who traveled north into Siberia, specifically the Cro-Magnon people. Cave paintings were made in the image of deer, such as the Megaloceras in France, with up to 90 different paintings known of deer. We even know about the color patterns of some of these deer thanks to cave paintings, such as with the case of the Megaloceros. In China, deer remained a popular game and a food source even after the arrival of farming. The deer in the area, such as the Sika deer, also likely benefited from the multitude of abandoned crop fields, providing them with an enormous amount of free food. Going through human history in particular, deer are often very prominent in ancient art, culture, and mythologies. Many peoples had at least some sort of relation or mythology or beliefs about the deer, including but not limited to the Hittites, the ancient Egyptians, the Celts, the ancient Greeks, as well as numerous Eastern Asian cultures. A prime example of this is the Stag Hunt mosaic from Pella, Macedonia in Greece. This mosaic was signed by the ancient Greek artist Neosis and was found in a wealthy 4th century home, the house of the abduction of Helen. The piece depicts potentially Alexander the Great and one of his buddies hunting a deer, which is often associated with the virginal huntress Artemis in Greek mythology. The Japanese believed that the Sika deer was a messenger of the gods, and the Chinese believed that the deer had medicinal properties, and specifically that the spotted deer accompanied the god of longevity. To the native peoples of Mexico, deer were often a major sacrificial animal, and deer remained a major game and food source for the people of medieval Europe. Today, deer have a major role in both economics as well as in pop culture. Deer meat, known as venison, is highly sought after by both hunters and non-hunters alike. The US in fact has a major deer hunting culture, with hunters going after quality meat but also large antlers. Antler foraging is also common after bucks drop their antlers. The larger and better condition of these antlers means that they can be sold for even higher prices. In order to hunt deer in the US, you have to pay for a permit, and the revenue from these permits and licenses can generate roughly $700 million a year, most of which will end up going to conservation efforts. Other expenditures for hunters, such as travel or equipment, can generate roughly $12 billion a year. Deer have also been bred in captivity and on farms, the only one being domesticated proper being the reindeer. In pop culture, deer have had a significant effect as well. Most famously, in the 1942 Disney film Bambi depicts a young white-tailed deer, though in the original 1923 book by Felix Salten, Bambi is a roe deer. Deer and their ancient relatives have also made plenty of appearances in paleomedia, most famously in the deer that had a very unfortunate end in Jurassic World Dominion, or most recently with the Megaloceros in prehistoric Planet Ice Age. Perhaps the most iconic form of pop culture that this group has gotten, however, is the association of the reindeer and Christmas. This originates from the reindeer's deep connection with the peoples of the northern regions of Eurasia, such as the Sami people of northern Scandinavia and Finland, which is a spot these animals can be found in. The reindeer provided these people vital transportation, clothing, and of course food. In the 1800s, the very first concepts of Santa Claus began to form, and the first time that reindeer became associated with the Jolly Red Man was in the 1823 poem by Clement Clarke Moore, A Visit from St. Nicholas, more famously known as now as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. This now famous poem describes how Santa got around on a miniature sleigh on 8 tiny reindeer, all given the names Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donder, and Blitzen.
Now going back to 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, is there anything about that poem that is accurate about reindeer?
Oh, actually there is. So they have a tendon on the back of their ankles and it snaps when they walk. And the purpose is so that they can find each other in blizzards and storms, and they know where each other is since they're herd animals. But in the poem, that click, 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 that's the snapping of the tendon for the reindeer.
That's cool.
This marked the start of the reindeer and Christmas, but it would evolve even more in 1939 with the release of the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer by Johnny Marks. The stop-motion film of the same name would then be released just over 2 decades later in 1964, solidifying Rudolph and the reindeer in Christmas culture and consumerism forever. Though I think reindeer are awesome beyond just being a holiday animal mascot.
Alright, now would you say these animals are awesome even outside of December?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We love being around them all the time. And in the summertime, we go out and we have our coffee with them out in the pasture.
Okay.
So they're awesome 24/7.
The deer is a unique creature, ranging over 40 species still alive today, over a majority of the planet's environments and ecosystems. This group has made it through some of the toughest periods in recent Earth's history, from massive glaciations to extreme human activity. First appearing up to 20 million years ago, this group has evolved into a multitude of shapes and sizes, alongside those ever impressive antlers that define the group. Often, deer, I think, are seen as underdogs in mammalian history, always in the background while animals like mammoths and mastodons get the spotlight. Even today, deer are seen as nothing more than pests to farmers and even threats to people. Deer and vehicle collisions cause hundreds of deaths a year and plenty more injuries, making them one of the deadliest animals on the planet. Not by their fault, but by ours. Even before they became a threat to cars, deer almost faced extinction in Europe, and it's a miracle that they're even still able to have populations alive today. Because of the very limited attention that these animals get, and the attention they do get labeling them as pests and threats, they could face very serious threats of extinction due to humans. Luckily, there are dozens of conservation efforts throughout the world that are aiming to save these amazing animals and educate people on them so that they can get more attention that they very much deserve. These animals have captivated the imaginations of our species all the way from when we first started putting our paintings on the walls of caves to the modern day when we go shopping for Christmas decorations. But these animals are not pests. They deserve more than a footnote in mammalian history. They are incredible animals. I again have to give a massive thank you to Kelly and Mike Gregg for allowing me and a small team to come film at their reindeer farm. They are amazing. If you happen to be in Northeast Ohio for some reason during the months of November and December, again, for whatever reason, then I'll have a link to their website in the description down below. So you can go check them out. They are awesome. I cannot wait to see you two again eventually, hopefully during the actual holiday months. Again, I will make sure to bring the boys some graham crackers. I also have a lot of footage from my trip that I took, and not all of it was able to be put into this video since it's not all about reindeer anymore. But if you want to see that, I'll have a behind the scenes video released maybe next week. If you're seeing this in the far future, then I'll have the video link in the description as well. I would also like to thank the people that came out with me to film. You guys were amazing. Thank you for doing that in, like the 5-degree weather. It sucked to film outside, but we did it. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to stick around for when I eventually make another long-form video like this. I don't have really any like this yet, but I can say that eventually I will, because this was really fun to make, actually. And if you want to see sort of similar content, but not the exact same like this, then you can check out either my shorts, which are very, short and educational as well, or you can check out my Jurassic World Evolution 3 campaign series that I'm currently doing, and I'll release the second video probably alongside this video at this rate. If you want to, be sure to join the Discord and follow my other socials. All of those links will be in the description as well. And if you enjoy paleontology and dinosaurs, or in this case, deer, then make sure to like and subscribe for more. I will see you next time. I made a decision. I'm gonna have credits, but not actually credits. It's gonna be my references page in the credits. It's like references, and then I'm just gonna scroll up slowly. We got 11 pages in the script, 4,600 words. A lot better than last time when we had, what was it, 10,000? 27,000 characters. 2,200 excluding spaces. Wow, 500 of characters in this script of spaces. That's insane. The references page I'll also have in the description as well, probably, so you don't have to scroll through this to check. Alright, now I guess we do the end screen. It's probably ain't been on screen for the past, 20 seconds, but yeah. Bye!